Let me turn to you, Dr. Burns, if I may. Could you explain the relationship between Dow Corning and the fiber optic revolution of the 1980s?
That would be Corning Incorporated, and actually using our materials in fiber optics. But Corning is a shareholder of our company.
Yes, but they used your technology.
They used our technology.
Your fiber optic technology.
Our advanced materials that they converted into fiber optics.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's a very interesting story, is it not? That up until 1983, the only way in which we transmitted information, AT&T, of course, was the only meaningful telecommunications company in the United States, was over copper wires. And then we broke up AT&T as a nation, and the first call that went from MCI went to Corning to use your materials that Corning of New York was putting into these new fiber optic technologies, using light as a means of transmitting information. And that's where the fiber optic revolution began, using your materials.
Yep.
Huh?
Yes.
And it seems kind of funny that you look back and you say, well, Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the phone 100 years before, and by the way, using light, but he couldn't figure out a way of dealing with weather and other circumstances. So he was kind of waiting for the kind of materials that you were developing so that it could be transmitted in a way that wouldn't be subject to weather and other sources. So all of a sudden, Alexander Graham Bell, up to 1983, is actually still able to recognize the phone system because it was the way he invented it. It's the way a phone call had been moving all those years. And in a lot of ways, that's really what we're talking about over here with the smart grid. The smart grid makes it possible for us to use the telecommunications revolution to bring in the sun and the wind from the deserts and the prairies, off of the ocean, off of people's roofs, and to begin to integrate it more into the totality of the grid that we have in our country. And it makes it a lot more affordable. Of course, it took the Dow Corning revolution in fiber optics in order to make all of that possible so that ultimately we could move to a broadband technology. But now we have this next revolution, and people are, arching an eyebrow saying, well, could we have the same kind of revolution here in energy that we had in the telecom sector? So my question to you is this. You've heard the conversation, Dr. Burns, about solar. And you talked about a thin film solar technology, which Dow Corning has. Could you expand a little bit upon that and what your hopes are for thin film solar, and especially in terms of its price point as each year goes by, and maybe using 2020 as a kind of a outside year in terms of what you believe the price of solar-generated electricity can be using thin film solar?
Well, I think, first of all, I think there's going to be a lot of different solutions to this renewable challenge, from wind to photovoltaics. And I think there's going to be a place for thin film in that equation, as well as the more rigid modules, depending on the needs and the building design, if you're putting it on a building. But thin film.
So the reason we're having this hearing is just solar. Okay, we're trying to put, kind of put bring in the sunshine and put it on the solar issue. Wind gets a lot of attention, and hybrid vehicles and batteries.
Well,
so
I can tell
we decided we'd have our solar-only hearing.
Solar cells have come a long ways from the one that's hanging behind your chair in your office. But yes, I think we are marching on a path where we are going to reach grid parity with these technologies.
When do you think that will happen?
There's a lot of variables in that whole equation, but I believe we're going to find it in the next 2 to 5 years.
2 to 5 years?
Yes. Now, it depends on where you're located and how much sunshine you get, et cetera, et cetera. But these technologies are moving more and more efficiently. And
now, when you say grid parity, are you talking about equating the cost of generating electricity from solar with generating electricity from coal?
Yes, from traditional sources.
From coal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natural gas, hydro.
So 2 to 5 years, did you say?
Mhm. And in some countries, as you know, like Japan, they're at grid parity now. And certainly at grid parity during peak use hours.
Yeah. So that's a big news story. People don't talk in those terms. People still think of solar as, you know, some distant dream that might be achieved in the next, you know, generation, not something that is basically right over the hill and could be in place within 5 years, competing effectively with coal. So where do you think that would be possible? That is, in what percentage, for example, of American consumers do you think could benefit from those kind of breakthroughs?
Well, these guys probably have a better answer than I do because, you know, I'm so far up in the value chain. But you know, my view is that, you know, where solar right now is less than 1% of our energy contribution, that should be up in the 5 to 7% over time. And I don't know how much time that's going to take, but that's a huge expansion in solar power as a source of electricity.
Well, we had Dr. Emmanuel Sachs testify in July before our committee, and he's the founder of the company Evergreen, and now he's founded a new company called 1366. He testified that he believed that 7% of all electricity in the world could be generated from photovoltaics by the year 2020. Do you think that's just some Panglossian number that is pulled out of the sky, or do you think there might be some basis in that?
I think if we're smart about it, we could achieve that.
Now, that is just amazing because, again, people focus so much, as Mr. Inslee said, on wind, and even in our deliberations on the bill, we spent so much time on biomass and other issues. But this solar issue really has a capacity, huh, with the proper funding and public policy?
Exactly. The right investment in research, policies to grow the market, and policies to encourage manufacturing investment.
And do you believe that your technology at Dow Corning is at the cutting edge in terms of thin film solar?
I think our specialized silicon-based materials are at the cutting edge. There are other companies that design the cells, design the modules, design the thin films, who, you know, there's a whole array of companies.
So you're like you provide the materials. You're like the arms merchant.
Exactly.
All these solar companies, all these solar companies will come to you, and they're going to have their race out there.
We hope they do. Yes.
Well, are they coming to you?
Yes, absolutely, and they're coming to us to get advice on investing in the U.S. to make whether it's their cells or their modules.
Mm-hmm. And how many companies have come to you?
I would say more than 5.
More than 5?
5 major players.
Major players. How do you define a major player?
Either as a cutting-edge innovator or a leader in their segment.
Okay. And are they well-funded companies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so are they buying into this idea that there's a 2 to 5 year horizon on thin film solar?
They're making some tremendous investments, and that's always based on your business evaluation of your potential.
So this is private sector venture capital money being put up to place money on this bet.
Or large public companies who are choosing to invest as part of their portfolio. We do have some smaller companies coming and working with us, and to echo some of the issues that were raised here, they do have an issue with access to capital and ability to get the loans that they need to make their investments.
Okay, so as you use 2 to 5 years as the horizon to establish parity between photovoltaics and coal as a source of generating electricity, even if you're wrong, do you think 10 years from now there's a chance that you would be wrong?
No.
By 10 years, it's a done deal.
I think so.